So by now, you've probably heard the shocking statistic that only 1% of U.S. pastors say their church is, quote, very effective at evangelism. And I think that means, and this is really close to my heart, that evangelism is on life support in a lot of American churches, like maybe 99%. But the question then becomes, well, what should you do about it? And evangelism is a complex issue, but that doesn't mean that there is nothing you can do about it. In fact, I think there are 5 key things church leaders can do that can potentially exponentially improve the outreach effort at your church. And that's what I want to talk about. So let's dive in. So the question becomes, well, what do you do about it? How can you actually exponentially improve evangelism at your church? So watch some math as we try to figure it out. And the first thing you can do is stop making evangelism the job of the lead pastor. So as much as the Reformation itself was about moving away from a professionalized clergy and moving ministry back into the body of Christ, the contemporary church has done a pretty good job of effectively delegating most ministry and most evangelism back to the church staff. In other words, not my job, your job, you people on the stage, you people with the microphone, that's kind of your responsibility. And a lot of churches have opted out of this idea that it belongs to everybody. But think about this, okay? If the lead pastor is the only one who is seen to be responsible for outreach at the church, then the church's outreach is going to suffer, right? While it's critical to have shareable weekend messages, and yes, the lead pastor has to be on board, but even effective preachers and people who are engaged in the personal art of evangelism and well-designed services can't make up for a lack of ownership of evangelism by the entire body of Christ, by the whole church. So if evangelism is only the lead pastor's job, then it's a job that can never effectively be done. So think about this, okay? Evangelism actually belongs to the entire church, to the entire body of Christ. And when people see it as their privilege and their responsibility, evangelism starts to strive. So do the math with me for just a moment, okay? Let's say for easy math, you've got a church of 100. That's an average sized church in America. If all 100 people realize that they play a role in sharing their faith with others, that potentially makes you 100 times more effective than if it all rests on the lead pastor. That's pretty simple math, right? And it's not a joke. You have 100 people engaged rather than one person engaged. That's 100x potential. Now, I'm going to share 4 more ideas in this video, but if you want step-by-step strategies to really transform what evangelism looks like at your church, I've got something called The Art of Reaching. It's a course that I've co-developed with Mark Clark, one of the best communicators and a guy who's extremely effective at evangelism. In it, you're going to get a game plan to increase the number of new visitors that your church sees each week. And you can check out the link in the description. So anyway, that's step 1. Move it beyond the lead pastor to the entire church. Church of 100, you get 100x more effectiveness overnight. Now, what's the second thing you can do? Well, you got to move evangelism off the lead pastor, but also from a 1-day experience to a 7-day-a-week experience. So we've already seen the potential for a church of 100 to become 100 times more effective by sharing the privilege of evangelism with the whole church. Obviously, inviting friends to the weekend service will be one of the best and easiest ways to connect people to your church and ultimately with Jesus. But if you prepare your congregation to start sharing their faith with family, with friends, with neighbors and coworkers during the week, you have increased your effectiveness by a further factor of 7. So think about this. If 100 people are sharing their faith in the ebbs and flows of everyday life, you're now potentially up to 700x more effective than just sharing the gospel on 1 hour on a Sunday morning with the lead pastor. All right, you got to distribute this. You got to get people out there sharing their faith on a regular basis. And if you're wondering how the early church grew, right, daily, God added to their number those who were being saved, it was simply this: mobilizing the entire body of Christ 7 days a week. That's exactly what happened. So if you wonder what's happening in the small percentage of churches growing with high conversion growth, it's that. It's because people, not just the pastor, own the mission of evangelism, and they own it 7 days a week. So if you're looking for practical examples, you can learn a lot more about how to equip your entire church for evangelism from the Church of 1122 and the Lutheran Church of Hope. I sat down with Mike Housholder and Joby Martin, had a great conversation with them, and we talked about it on my leadership podcast. So we'll share a link in the comments. Okay, the third thing you can do is you can find and fuel people with the spiritual gift of evangelism. So maybe you're thinking, well, I'm sure some congregations might be able to get everybody involved in evangelism, but not our church. Well, like you're saying, there's no way everyone's going to tell everybody about Jesus. And I'll be honest, you're partially correct. Okay, you may not get 100% participation, but if you never cast a vision for evangelism, you'll likely get what? Not 100% participation, 0% participation. If you drill a little deeper, though, you'll realize that while some people might be hesitant to share their faith, there's a very small percentage of people who both love to share the hope of Jesus and they're great at it. Okay, they're fantastic at it. Studies reveal that maybe 1% of Christians claim to have the gift of evangelism. I actually think the real number is a little bit higher because churches haven't taught on this. Some people are like, well, I love talking to my neighbors. They don't realize that they have the gift of evangelism. So official studies say 1% of Christians claim they have the gift of evangelism, but I think it could be potentially higher. So what you want to do is you want to find the people who are great at sharing their faith, and you want to find them, you want to fuel them. That's what you want to do. So what you want to do is you want to encourage them and say, hey, you do a great job inviting people to this church. You seem to be a natural at it. But if even only a single-digit percentage of people in your church have the spiritual gift of evangelism, it's still really important to do it because now you can activate that gift. And if one person is sharing their faith and one person is inviting people to your church, you're going to see a change. So I'll give you a personal example. One of my good personal friends I've known for over 20 years, I think she has the spiritual gift of evangelism. She walks into a room, can be a room full of strangers. She lights up and she can talk to them about their faith. I don't know. I think she's better at it than I am. Okay. But she just finds conversations about Jesus naturally inspiring, and she's not awkward about it. Not one of these people that makes you feel weird because they just talked about their spirituality. I think she's better at it than most preachers. So I had her write an article about it for my blog. You can click the link to it below. Her name is Rose. And I also interview her about it. And again, we've got links below that can help you access what she does. She's just natural at it. She's got the spiritual gift of evangelism, and she's invited a ton of people to our church. So what you want to do is you want to get behind people like Rose. You want to name the gift. You want to encourage them. You want to give them easy invite tools like here's a really cool post you can share with your friends. Here's a card you can give to somebody to our next series, etc., etc. So you want to find it. You want to fuel it. Okay. Fourth thing you can do is encourage new people to invite other new people. So there's a little secret that nobody really thinks about nearly enough behind evangelism. Your best inviters are not just the people with the spiritual gift of evangelism, they're new people. Or to put it differently, new people are the best people to invite other new people. So think about it. Just break this down, okay? New people are most likely to be connected to a network of friends and family who don't yet attend your church. So when a new person arrives and they have an encounter with Jesus, they're in a perfect position to share it with dozens of people who don't know about Jesus or attend your church, right? Think about this. In the same way, you tell your friends about a great new restaurant you visited or a resort, a place that you vacationed at. You come home, it's like, this was amazing. It was the best thing ever. I love the appetizers. I love my main course. Or we had the best time. They have the best beaches, right? You're kind of evangelizing about a restaurant or a resort or a place that you stayed at. New people are perfectly positioned to share the news about their faith with their friends who don't yet go to church. If they get excited about Jesus, they're going to tell their friends. So this is really simple. Don't miss it. Give them permission to share their faith and resources to do it. Okay, we are part of a church. I led a church for over 20 years where we had the vast majority of people coming in who didn't have a church background. And I can't tell you the number of times new attendees pulled me aside at our church and they said in a pretty hushed voice, "Hey, we really like this church. Is it okay if we invite some of our friends here? Like, I don't know what the rules are at this church." And I'm like, "The rules? We don't have any rules about that. Like, we live for moments like this. Of course you can invite your friends, but people don't know they have permission. They think of the church as like some private club, right?" I'm like, "Totally. Invite your friends. They're always welcome. Invite your family." And then they do. All right. So try not to yell, "Yes, all right, you can definitely invite your friends." Try to be composed, but you want to tell them, you want to give them permission. Absolutely. Everybody's welcome here. Bring them here. How can I help you? And of course, when they bring that first new guest, guess what? This is the network effect. That new guest has their own network of other people, coworkers, friends, neighbors. And soon you begin experiencing the network effect of more people inviting more people inviting new people, which sparks more people attending and more life transformation. So beyond Sunday morning, programs like Alpha have incredible ability, like an unbelievable ability to spark a network effect of new people inviting new people. You got to check it out. It's just Alpha. If you Google it, you'll find it. Bottom line, the best inviters to your church, other than the people with the spiritual gift of evangelism, will be new people. You start getting a pocket of them, and they will become your best inviters. All right, finally, number 5, invest in your digital front door. A lot of churches are decades behind the culture when it comes to the mindset around technology. We live in a digital first culture. How do we know that? Well, you're watching this on YouTube, right? Okay, so many churches have a digital last approach to ministry in a digital first culture. So despite the pivot to online ministry during COVID, which is years ago now, many churches immediately reverted back to trying to fill rooms, right? It's like, all right, COVID's over. We got to get the room full again because rooms weren't full. Even throttling. I saw pastors do this, and some people are still doing this. I don't get it, okay? They're throttling or shutting down their digital ministries so they can pack out their physical spaces. And I want to scream, why? Why are you doing this? See, a room full of people does not guarantee a fulfilled mission. Full rooms don't mean fulfilled mission, particularly when everyone you want to reach is online. If you have 100 people on Sunday, you probably have 1,000 people within a 30-minute drive, maybe 10,000 people who don't know Jesus. If you have 1,000 people in a room on Sunday, you probably have 100,000 people within a 30-minute drive who don't know Jesus. Yeah, your room might be packed, but you might have 100,000 people who don't know Jesus within a 30-minute drive of your church. So in the same way that you're going to search out a restaurant before eating at it, or deeply Google a resort or check it out on social media before you book a vacation with your family, every person who attends your church will have checked you out online before visiting in person. So think about it this way. Your digital footprint is your new foyer. So everything on your social media, your YouTube presence, your website, your search results, where you show up or how you show up on Google Maps, you have to ensure that they are ready to introduce new guests to your church and ultimately to Jesus. You got to optimize them, every aspect of it. I can't tell you the number of times I visited a church website and had to dig like 3 pages in to find service times and locations. Most people don't have the patience to do it. I'm a church leader, so I do it. But the average person is like, I don't know when they meet. I'm not going to go, right? Or they check out on Google to see that, have you done this recently, by the way? Check yourself out on Google Maps, because 9 times out of 10, your church will be marked as closed 99% of the time, open for 1 hour on Sunday. Well, if you've got people in the office during the week, don't you want people like calling you or checking you out or dropping by? I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to be open 1 hour a week. If you're a restaurant, you're open 1 hour a week, a lot of people aren't going to go. So your digital presence is your point of first contact with almost everybody you're going to reach, and your social media is your first point of ministry for everyone you come into contact with. Building an effective online presence isn't about investing like this huge budget and staffing nearly as much as it is about investing your mind and your heart into what you're already doing online. If you have a small church, you got Gen Zs who will volunteer, set it all up for you. The budget and staffing can grow as you grow. But what matters most is that you realize that the people God invites to be part of your ministry are going to meet you on your online channels long before they meet your parking team on a Sunday morning. All right, so now you got a few ideas to think about. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to go deeper, go check out the Art of Reaching course, okay? From creating a culture where people are excited to invite their family and friends, to making a big impact online that leads to in-person engagement, right down to like mastering your guest experience. We got a lot on that. You'll be set with an effective evangelism and outreach strategy, from creating a culture where people are excited to invite their family and friends, to making a big impact online that leads to in-person engagement, right down to mastering your guest experience. You'll be set with an effective evangelism and outreach strategy that'll make a bigger impact on your community. So these are just a few of the results you'll see when you check out the Art of Reaching in the description for this video if you'd like to see evangelism flourish at your church. Here's the bottom line. People are searching for love. They're searching for meaning, for hope, for forgiveness. When a church realizes that and positions itself accordingly, everything changes.